We all knew something was wrong with Aubrey Graham. We all knew something wasn't right and he wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. But we never really had anybody to break it down and quite convey how bad his mind really is. And today, we're about to be watching a video by Jay Wisdom called Drake's Dark Side, a psychological analysis. This is something you are not gonna wanna miss. Make sure you get the likes up, please subscribe, and hype this video. Let's get into it, y'all.
In the past years, there's constantly been celebrities being exposed for heinous and disturbing behavior. One of the more recent is Aubrey Graham, known as Drake. His weirdo behavior with underage girls is what's stolen the spotlight.
We just texted each other the other day and he was like, I miss you so much. I was like, I miss you more.
However, that's only one of the many issues Drake has. Because in actuality, there's a very dark side to Drake that finds its way into his business, his relationships, and his feuds. And in this documentary, I'm not only exposing this dark side to you, but taking you on the journey of Aubrey Graham to try and figure out how this dark side came to fruition. Aubrey Drake Graham was born in Toronto, Canada, to an African-American Catholic dad, Dennis, and a Canadian Jewish mother, Sandra, but often called Sandy. The two of them divorced when Aubrey was 5 years old, which made it hard for him to have a full-on relationship with his dad, who lived a 4-hour flight away in Memphis. He would still visit when he could, but wasn't able to give Drake the guidance and morals that he needed for later on in life. Aubrey originally lived in a relatively ghetto area in Toronto called Western Road, but later on, Sandy moved them 20 minutes away to Forest Hill, which was predominantly white and Jewish, and with him being biracial, it made it slightly more challenging to fit in, at least from his perspective.
I just always felt like an outsider, just being biracial, but still being Jewish, so I was like kind of connected to the kids, but like sort of distant.
You get teased a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I got it, you know.
So in order for him to fit in at a young age, he had to learn to adjust and blend in, analysing how the people around him were acting, and then mimicking these behaviours to be like. This could have...
And Drake was blending in to the point where he started to talk down on black people. There's a couple clips out there with him in TV shows and him actually talking down on, like saying that black people are ghetto and stuff like that. But here we go. 2026, whenever Drake came out, he started to try to be exactly the way we are, try to use our lingo when we know he was saying the hard ER at first until somebody had trained him.
Sparked an insecurity within when it came to him being himself. As he grew into his teenage years, he got into acting and landed a role in the Canadian teen drama Degrassi as Jimmy Brooks.
Oh, I get it. You don't want to break up with me because it's my birthday? What is that, like my birthday present?
Jimmy.
You want to break up, Ash? Then let's break up. Now.
Not only was he a talented actor, but also a likable person to the other members on set.
When you see him, you're like, this kid just has it together, and you know he's gonna go places.
He's got charm just trailing behind him on the floor, and you can see that on screen, but I think he's got even more in real life, which is scary.
However, from a young age, his true passion underneath the acting has always been music.
At an early age, there was something that, you know, it wasn't sports, it wasn't video games, there was something about music that really connected with me.
Yo, boss ain't Golden Gates. Those who fake, they break. When they meet their 400-pound weight.
So whilst acting, he was still making music on the side and working on his craft. And using his middle name, he gave himself the rap name Drake.
I've been a mess since every girl I left went and got a new man, but I'm the new version of Fresh Prince.
He actually built the foundations of his career while still at Degrassi. His first two mixtapes were released in 2006 and 2007, and despite not garnering a mass amount of attention, a couple of his songs have caught the ear of one Jazz Prince.
So you're helping get features on a bunch of Rap-A-Lot albums. Your dad told you to go out and find artists with a buzz. Who'd you find?
Drake.
And it was as though
See, there's this misconception that it was Jay Prince Jr. who discovered Drake, but it wasn't him. It was Jazz Prince the more put together one, the one who ain't trying to act gangster.
Stars a line for Drake, because in 2008, Jazz Prince would then play his music to one of the biggest rappers at this time, Lil Wayne. Wayne, alongside another rapper Birdman, was the owner of a music label called Young Money Entertainment, and if Drake was able to get signed by such a relevant artist, it would definitely fast-track his career. Coincidentally, in the same year, Degrassi were recasting to get younger actors, and with Drake being 21, they decided to let him go, but this wouldn't matter, as Lil Wayne would end up signing him to Young Money in 2009. With rap being such an American-dominant genre, Drake being Canadian would supposedly hinder him. Not only that, but he didn't live the life that many successful rappers spoke about. A lot of rap is about tough upbringings, violent environments, drug dealing, and women.
I can't do that. I can only rap about my Jewish mom and the girls that I take on dates and stuff.
So he had this challenge of being limited to,
and that was working out for him. I don't know why he had to switch over to not keeping it Canadian. He tried to be gangster, and everything was working out for him the way it was.
What he could talk about, but he was talented enough to still break through and find good success in his first album, Thank Me Later, in 2009. He predominantly speaks about girls, as well as his ambition and goals to be the greatest rapper in the game. This gave Drake his first steps of fame, but that also includes being more in the spotlight, where all of your actions are now on show. Now he was finally big enough to headline shows and bring in an audience. And a tradition in a lot of male artist shows is bringing a female on stage and essentially serenading and dancing with her. Drake's team picked out Tia Owens, not knowing she was only 17 years old. Drake was 23 at this time, and prior to knowing her age, he had been dancing with her and acting in a romantic manner. So when finding out she was only 17, an appropriate response would be apologizing and getting someone to escort her off stage, right?
So the word is that her dad was even in the crowd and he allowed her to go up there. I blame the parents. I also blame Drake as well, but
look at all this. I had fun. I don't know if I should feel guilty or not, but I had fun. I like the way your breasts feel against my chest and stuff.
Instead of reading the room and de-escalating the moment, he lusts over a teenager's body and then kisses her on the lips. However, this moment didn't affect Drake's career at the time, but another controversial moment happened in 2010.
Because T.I. homeboy peed on that.
On Drake?
Peed on him.
I think I remember that.
It's documented.
I remember that.
Drake didn't do nothing.
He was allegedly peed on in the club, and despite Drake at this point never claiming to be hard or a violent guy, not retaliating to someone violating you like that would typically be enough to tarnish anyone's image. But Drake's music was so good and becoming more mainstream beyond just hip-hop that these moments never really made much noise. In 2011, he dropped the album Take Care, which brought with it a different controversy.
Oh man. Bro, it's something about somebody from the UK who has that voice. When y'all do documentaries, oh my gosh, man, I love it. Y'all know I love the Geek About It channel. Bro, this is another one just like it, bro.
If you were to look at the credits of the songs in Take Care, you would find the name Abel Tesfaye in 5 of them. Abel was an upcoming artist from Toronto who hadn't gained too much fame yet. He went by the name The Weeknd, and just how Drake was discovered early in his career by Jazz Prince and Lil Wayne, he was trying to repeat the process himself with The Weeknd. The Weeknd dropped his first mixtape in 2011, which was well received and gave him a glimpse of clout but not super stardom. Drake was put on by his manager Oliver and started showing support. He turned up at his shows and shouted him out on social media. He also publicly announced an unofficial partnership between his own label, OVO, and The Weeknd's team, EXO. Drake would then start to bring him out on his shows, and he hopped on as a feature for one of The Weeknd's songs, and all of the buzz this duo were getting encouraged Drake to include The Weeknd on the Take Care album. He is vocally on 2 of the songs and including in writing another 3. So it's a pretty big involvement for a smaller artist helping out a now established artist. The album was a massive success which benefits both artists of course, and an official partnership was looking imminent. However, it never came. You see, whilst being signed to Young Money, Drake also started his own label that I mentioned, OVO, where he would aim to sign predominantly Canadian artists, so of course he wanted to sign The Weeknd. However, Abel rejected this offer and instead decided to sign with Republic Records. The day The Weeknd signed, Drake put out this tweet, and at first you might say you understand him based on what he did for him in terms of getting his name out.
You won't get away with just a thank you. You owe me a favor. You see that? And this is the reason why Rick Ross was saying what he was saying when he was on the Apple Music interview with Ebro. He was saying, this ain't how we do it, bro. This ain't how we do it. We like to see people elevate. You know what I mean? But yeah, Drake is like, if he get denied in any way, shape, type, or form, he don't want you on the face of this earth no more. You owe me a favor. You won't get away with this, pal.
Out there. But that's what you don't understand. Drake is a manipulator. This whole situation is secretly one big manipulative plan. The Weeknd revealed his frustration that Drake had taken his songs for the Take Care album. He even describes a time where Drake, who had already taken 2 of his songs at this point, crashed his studio session, heard a song that The Weeknd was recording, and asked if he could take that one too. When you're a smaller artist and a bigger artist approaches you, there's some things you may compromise in favor of the opportunity at hand. In Abel's case, it was Drake taking his music. Even their collaborative song, True Love, which was a big hit, it was originally a full song with only Abel. Drake heard it, took it, put a verse on it, and had it on his own album with The Weeknd as a feature. But to understand where the manipulation comes in, you first need to understand what OVO is and what it's actually produced up to the present day. A label owner benefits by having talent to constantly collaborate with and also generate more income as they get a percentage of their artist revenue. But the signees also benefit.
Y'all hear that? They get a percentage of their artist revenue. This is why when Drake had that so-called stimulus package, it seemed like he was doing people a favor, like Migos and people that he was getting on trip. Really, he was collecting all the percentages from the music.
Benefit as they'll get a lot more recognition, as the label owner is typically already hugely successful and popular. So when they collaborate, it will bring more attention to them. There's no better example than the label Drake himself was signed to, Young Money Entertainment. Lil Wayne was one of the best label owners I've seen, and Lil Wayne would frequently collaborate with his artists, and it felt as though they were one big team. Drake's OVO label, however, has just become the complete opposite. For Drake, it's just essentially been a scheme to get more money for himself and leech off trending sounds. Party Next Door is probably the biggest signee, a fairly talented R&B singer and pretty much the only one Drake has assisted properly, and his success is fairly justifiable with his talent. However, the same can't be said for the rest. Majid Jordan, a Canadian duo, are literally only known to the wider population for their one feature on a Drake song, Hold On We're Going Home. Back on Not Nice is a bit of a weird one because he's more known for his sex trafficking allegations more than his music, and Drake is still very close friends with him.
And Baka got a weird case. Why is he around? Certified lover boy, certified. Why? Baka got a weird case. This is why when Drake was trying to sue him, he couldn't do nothing because he said Baka got a weird case, which is true.
I Love McConan had the hit song Tuesday that Drake heard, signed him, and hopped on the remix for, which was a big hit. But McConan revealed in an interview that after the hype died down, he went to OVO asking if he could get support, features, or promotion for his next projects, and they said no. Remember, if he didn't sign to OVO, he would have been getting 100% of the revenue, but being signed, Drake gets a percentage. A darker example, however, was on the production side of OVO. Noah Fisher, who went by the name Detail, is an American producer who helped Drake on his 2013 album, Nothing Was the Same. Drake tried to force Detail into an exclusive deal with OVO, which Detail declined. Later on, Drake invited him to his house to work together, but not under the OVO deal. But when he came over, Drake's well-known bodyguard, Chubbs, opened the door and brutally assaulted him, allegedly on Drake's orders. The attack left him hospitalized for several days with a broken jaw that required surgery. He asked Drake to cover the medical expenses, which Drake refused. Detail filed for a lawsuit to get compensation for his injuries, but then mysteriously didn't turn up to court, consequently getting the lawsuit thrown out. It isn't hard to...
So what Drake was initially trying to do is enslave people, bro. This is why everybody calls him the colonizer. This is the Sandra side of him. The Dennis side got him over to the rap, have him loving rap, but the Sandra side of him started to take over and wanted to start using people, aka hence the name, the Sweatshop.
To make guesses to what sort of threats could have spooked Detail from going ahead with this. He hasn't commented on it since, but in a song named War that Drake would later drop down the line, he raps, "Feds wanna tap man up and wire man up like Chubbs did Detail." Of course, the double entendre of the Feds wanted to get Drake to snitch with a wire, but also Chubbs breaking Detail's jaw, causing him to have his jaw wired shut, which is often what happens with a broken jaw. So not only does he use his money and power to maliciously assault an innocent man, but he also brags about it. So with us knowing all of this, it's clear that The Weeknd was able to see the future, or lack thereof, with OVO. and he chose not to sign his life away, as in the present day he's accumulated a huge level of success that he definitely wouldn't have reached with Drake taking his music and revenue. So the manipulation tactic Drake was using in the first place is called love bombing. Love bombing is an emotional manipulation technique that involves giving someone excessive compliments, attention, or affection to eventually control them. Drake saw The Weeknd's potential, in fact not just his potential, but the similarities in the sound The Weeknd create and what Drake tries to create with the melodies in his own music. So he saw.
And y'all see this pattern with Drake? When he get people on stage and, yo, this is my brother, y'all go out, yo, I love this guy. That's because he's trying to use them for something.
The potential to rob The Weeknd of his talent and use it for himself. Of course, to make The Weeknd feel comfortable with this, Drake leveraged his superior clout, with him being the big artist that could put The Weeknd on and get him more fans. He showed him immense support with all the things mentioned, and this wasn't a long-term thing. This all happened within a year, which is
he started off with the hand around their shoulder. That's the #1 sign. He tried to do Kendrick Lamar the same way.
Key to love bombing is the person can feel overwhelmed and feel as though they have to return the favor. So when Drake thought he'd done enough to win over the signature, it killed his ego to find out it failed. And this time, Drake's intended victim was able to escape.
He loved them shoulders.
In 2013, Drake won his first Grammy for the mentioned album, Take Care. But one thing he didn't know how to take care of was his industry relationships. Drake had taken a liking to fellow artist Rihanna, and they collaborated on a few tracks, such as the actual song titled Take Care and What's My Name. However, Rihanna was in a situation with her ex Chris Brown. Despite assaulting her years prior, Chris still had strong feelings for Rihanna. Drake and Chris were supposedly cool at this point, collaborating on some songs and being seen together. However, Drake was also publicly trying to pursue the lady that Chris was still in love with, which obviously caused tensions to build between them. However, in a New York nightclub, Chris tried to squash any beef by sending a bottle to Drake's table, saying something along the lines of, "Let's be friends." But what you'll come to find is Drake's confidence and demeanor is a whole lot different when he has his entourage around him, which is a big sign of insecurity. But anyway, Drake sends a bottle back to Chris's table saying, "I am f***ing the love of your life," before him and his crew walk over to Chris's table, holding up middle fingers. All of a sudden, the crew starts swinging and throwing bottles at one another, which resulted in NBA player Tony Parker, a male model, and 2 other women getting hurt in the brawl and filing lawsuits. The same man who let another man pee on him when he was on his own had the courage and bravery when he had his goons around him to antagonize and assault another artist unprovoked. Similar to the situation we detail, Drake's money makes him feel powerful by way of who he is able to be surrounded by, essentially paying these bodyguards to act as Drake's friends from the hood. No other rapper really talks about their bodyguards, let alone name drops their bodyguards in songs. They talk about their gang members who crash out and do violent things. Drake raps in the same way they do, but about his bodyguard Chubbs, who allegedly carries out violent acts on the orders of Drake. He can finally live out that thug lifestyle that rappers are supposed to be living, in his mind at least, on his own.
And to put everything into perspective, I believe that this is another manipulation tactic. Chubbs, I'm going to say your name on these tracks. That's to get Chubbs in the pocket. Now Chubbs do anything Drake say.
It's a different story.
Based on people that I've spoken to close to the situation, Diddy really did punch Drake in the face.
Oh, I got that call 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Sean Combs, known as Diddy, either slapped or punched Drake in 2015 over a dispute about a beat that Drake used, and Drake did nothing. Another friend in the industry Drake fell out with was Meek Mill. They collaborated on the track Amen in 2012, and then again in 2015 with the song Rico. However, it was the latter song that would be the start of a controversy that haunts Drake to this day. On July 1st, 2015, Meek Mill put out a tweet. He followed this up by addressing Rico, saying that Drake didn't write any of his own bars for the song. This news put a lot of eyes on Drake because in general music, artists have songwriters create lyrics and flows for them all the time. However, in hip hop and the rap game, it was highly despised and looked down on. So the fact that one of the biggest hip hop artists at the time was being accused of it was a big deal. The next day, Meek gave a name. Quentin Miller was named in the writing credits of the song Rico, but it's normal to have contributing writers. Having a full-on ghostwriter make the bars for you is a whole different accusation. Quentin also had credits on Drake's new If You're Reading This Is Too Late mixtape, which had dropped earlier that year. However, what then leaked was the reference track of Quentin singing Drake's song from the album called 10 Bands. This pretty much confirmed the rumours were true, and Quentin Miller was labelled Drake's ghostwriter. Instead of replying with Twitter fingers, Drake did what he does best and made good music. He released 2 diss tracks, with the latter back to back receiving incredible reception and being an instant club banger.
I'm not the type of that type of niggas. And shut up.
That beat. crazy.
Drake replied with his own diss, but it was weak, and Drake managed to keep his reputation despite the ghostwriting allegations. However, the one man who was left the most damage out of this beef wasn't even Meek, as him and Drake made up years later. It was Quentin.
It was just like, I just didn't matter. Just like, this guy, just throwing my whole life on the back burner, just like, you know, whatever, just to get at it, you know, like, but what about me? What about me taking care of my family?
Quentin was an aspiring artist himself, but didn't really have the voice or cadence to stand out, but his writing was good. Whilst he was still working at a grocery store, he was contacted by Drake's team to work with him for If You're Reading This Is Too Late, which was exciting for him as Drake was one of his idols. He helped collaborate on the mixtape and things went great, up until the Drake and Meek beef. Quentin was labelled as Drake's ghostwriter, and Drake wanted to try hard to keep that allegation away after the beef, and it wouldn't go away if he were to keep working with Quentin and putting his name in the credits. So Drake eventually cut him off, and no other artists would take him on as a writer, as they didn't want their rep tarnished also. Now you might be saying, that's unfortunate, but what does this have to do with Drake? Well see, Quentin had nothing to do with Drake getting exposed. The reference tracks were leaked by other people, and if anything, he downplayed his involvement in interviews and statements to make Drake look better. Drake paid him $30,000 for helping on 6 songs in the mixtape, which is a pretty bad deal considering how much revenue it would be.
He was helping Drake keep his image up to par by denying the allegations, well, they're really not allegations, what they was alluding to, but he was trying to help Drake out, but Drake said, nah, I don't want you around me no more, because it was true.
Predicted to generate, but desperate to learn and network, Quentin took it. But when his reputation got ruined and Drake dropped him, that cash quickly ran out and he had to go back to working regular jobs to support his family.
I don't have no other skills. I ain't go to college, you know, like I make music. That's my skill, you know, so they don't really think about the repercussions of shit that goes on, you know.
Drake's net worth in 2016 was $60 million. I don't know about you, but if I had that money, out of pity towards the events that occurred, I would at least try to help Quentin get out of the situation he was in, one way or another. Drake's the type of guy that would easily spend 6 figures on a woman he's not even in a relationship with, but he couldn't offer a helping hand to a man whose sole purpose was helping him make a better mixtape. Drake is a narcissist. In this moment, all he feared for was his reputation, which is fair enough, but even after everything died down, he showed he's someone who doesn't care about anyone else's pain or struggle. He just doesn't have that empathy. As long as his power, success and fortune grows, then his ego is satisfied. And it's the same power that Drake would abuse time and time again. We already covered the onstage situation with 23-year-old Drake and 17-year-old Tia Owens.
So he started his life having to be a character from over there with his mother till he moved to the other side of town where the other people was, and he had to portray this image and never fit in with anybody on either side. So he always had to be a character his whole life.
He went past this moment. However, Drake already showed signs back then that he could very much so still be sexually attracted to high school girls as a man in his 20s. Now, of course, a lot of his life is still private, but some situations he's rumored to be involved in would be quite weird if true. Hailey Baldwin claims to have known Drake since she was 14 and he was 26. Then dating rumors sparked when she was 19 and he was 29, which is semi-backed up by Drake wearing Hailey's jewelry and Hailey wearing Drake's jacket. But hey, just friends, right? I'm also not really going to go into the fact that when he was 30, he dated 19-year-old Georgia Smith, and when she broke things off with him, he dedicated a whole song to her, even acknowledging how young she is multiple times. But things actually get weirder. Now, let's look at Millie Bobby Brown. I'm sorry, but a 13-year-old and a 31-year-old who have no industry connections at all should have no reason to be friends. Millie Bobby Brown was a teenage actress, and they met after one of Drake's shows. No doubt she was a fan of Drake, but I'm pretty sure Drake has a lot of fans. Why did he choose to befriend this 13-year-old girl? Why is a man in his 30s bonding with a young teenager and giving her relationship advice?
Yeah, why are you helping her out in any way? And you got Quentin Miller over here that's helping you write songs and stuff like that. Well, he's writing the songs for you. What is she helping you do? Where's the damn parents? That's another question. Where's these parents at?
What advice does he give you? Like, what does he say? About boys. He helps me. What? Yeah,
What?
yeah. He's great. He's wonderful. I love
That's what my father for.
You know, that stays in the text messages.
Giving a girl that age relationship advice whilst you're a promiscuous unmarried man in your 30s who can't maintain a relationship longer than 12 months is kind of creepy, and I don't think Drake wanted this to be public knowledge.
He's honestly so fantastic and a great friend and a great role model. You know, we just texted each other the other day and he was like, I miss you so much. I was like, I miss you more.
It became so public because Millie was so young and naive.
Where's the father? Where is the father? Where's the mother? And this is why a lot of these industry kids get taken advantage of. It's because the parents are more starstruck. They are the starstruck ones. They're trying to vicariously live their life through their children.
Of course, with her innocence due to her age, that she wouldn't perceive the world the way adults do and wouldn't find it weird that Drake is talking to her. So by her exposing it, it probably made Drake abort any plans he potentially had. And over time, their relationship seemingly faded away. Jumping into the future real quick, Drake would unprovoked mention her on some of his songs. In one song, he essentially says, "Make jokes about me and Millie Bobby Brown and my bodyguards will hurt you." In 2024, he basically says, "I don't mess with girls Millie Bobby Brown's age," who would have been 20 at the time. And again, no one provoked him to say her name. But imagine if this knowledge that he was messaging her as a teen never became public. When she turned 18, would he have dated her, like he allegedly did with the next woman, Bella Harris? Bella and Drake met when she was 16, as her dad is the famous producer, Jimmy Jam. However, this is an extremely odd position to be in with your work associate's daughter, who is only 16. Regardless of if they even actually dated at 18, it's still weird. He also had the artist Billie Eilish's number and would message her when she was underage, but they're both musicians and nothing progressed from it again, so I'll brush past it.
But like Drake, come on. Drake is like the nicest dude I've ever spoken to. I mean, I've only like texted him, but he's so nice.
Drake has even rapped the lyric, "High school pics, you were even bad then," which is an odd thing to say considering he has high school aged girls as friends. So it's weird to know that he still finds it possible to see that age group as attractive. The thing is, Drake hasn't done anything legally wrong, nor have any of the girls complained about him. However, it's undeniable, Drake fan or not, that it's slightly weird that he befriends so many minors when he doesn't need to. Even when it comes to grown women, he's also quite weird. He still to this day makes lyrics sending shots at his ex Rihanna. His ex Serena Williams is now happily married with kids, and he chose to call her husband a groupie. When the rapper Ice Spice started to get some buzz around her name, Drake followed her on Instagram and flew her out to an OVO festival, but after it finished and she flew back, he unfollowed her. The reason why is still not reported anywhere, but I'll let your own mind think of potential reasons. Another example that's
yeah, she ain't let him hit it. That's what it was. Yeah.
But kind of hard to talk about isn't with another celebrity, but with a woman that he paid $350,000 to after she accused him of sexual assault in 2019. However, Drake has faced no charges and has no criminal record, so we'll let that one go. Just remember that this is only what is public knowledge about all these women. However, the media getting shaken up by these rumors was nothing compared to when Drake was actually exposed for hiding secrets.
But we see the patterns building up. It's not just with Drake, it's with other people too. People didn't know who David was until now, but there was patterns in the music. Him constantly cutting his beard off. You want to look like a Hello Kitty, grown ass man, boy.
In 2018, Drake would get into the climax of his feud with rapper Pusha T that had been brewing for some years.
I've never shied away from defending myself. And I'm also sometimes eager to engage if I feel that you want to be slick or be offensive behind the scenes. I might choose to address it in music. And you know, that was how I ended myself up in the Pusha situation.
Drake and Pusha had actually been sending subliminal shots to each other in songs for years up to this point, but in 2018, Pusha released a song called Infrared, where he explicitly makes fun of Drake's ghostwriting allegations, rapping, "It was written like Nas, but it came from Quentin." Somehow, in less than 24 hours, Drake responded with a direct diss track to Pusha called Duppy Freestyle. The song was well received and had great flows and lyrics. However, for no real reason, he decides to name drop Pusha's wife in a diss. In rap battles, an unwritten rule pretty much is don't get family involved, and Drake didn't even need to include it in the line. He was clearly so arrogant in the situation, he thought, I'm gonna break this unwritten rule because there's no way you can respond with a diss track better than mine, gaining this confidence with his successful beef.
No, that's how out of touch he is. Mr. Study battle raps for a living. He probably didn't even know about the unwritten rule. When you copy in a whole different culture, you don't know the different nuances that's in that culture. All you know is, all right, let me copy and paste this. You don't have real insight of what's going on.
With Meek. It's not like the line exposes anything about Pusha or his wife, it's just, I'm gonna drop her name in there to make you angry. But no one was ready for the bomb Pusha had prepared to drop 4 days later. Pusha dropped the song, The Story of Adidon, which had some personal bars in it. He makes fun of Drake's friend and #1 producer, 40, who has a condition called multiple sclerosis.
Tick, tick, tick. How much time he got? That man is 666.
He makes fun of Drake's issues of being biracial and struggling to fit in no matter where he goes.
Confused, always felt you weren't black enough. Afraid to grow it cause your fro wouldn't nap enough.
But then he drops the breaking news.
You are hiding a child, let that boy come home. Deadbeat mother. motherfucker playing border patrol. Ooh!
Pusha broke the news that Drake had a son with an ex-adult film star named Sophie Brousseau.
Oh, I'm sorry, bro, man. Yo, Pusha. Oh my God.
That he was hiding from the world. His son's name is Adonis, which Pusha also exposed on the track, and revealed Drake was planning to announce him through an Adidas press run. Now, of course, if Drake was keeping Adonis' existence hidden for privacy reasons up to this point, that's cool, but the fact that this potentially amazing moment of Drake revealing it himself and receiving praise and love for it was taken away by Pusha, who revealed it in such a malicious way. It was the shock factor more than anything that caused Drake to lose this beef. Instead of the headlines being, Drake reveals he has a son, it was Drake exposed for hiding his son.
I just realized that like nobody cares about this guy, so it's not really much I can say better than Drake has a baby. He won, you know, he won off that bomb.
Drake didn't end up responding.
Okay, we got Drake admitting he lost a battle. What was your problem in 2024? Why you got all of these minions running around, you know you lost, and you keeping it up?
Into this with a song and the beef was ended. However, in the past when rappers had lost beefs, it at least had some detriment on their career, like Ja Rule after his beef with 50 Cent. However, this wasn't the case with Drake. Over time, Adonis has just been embraced and people kind of find him entertaining, and Drake was able to just push out generic mainstream music that the mass public could digest on the radio, and his numbers weren't really affected. In fact, months later he dropped the song In My Feelings that broke the streaming record for the most streams in a single week. Drake was unstoppable, and despite his dark traits, the next few years would allow him to just roll in billions of streams for his music and an ever-growing bank account. And someone at some point had to stop him.
Uh-oh. Y'all know what time it is, right? Get the likes up.
Similar to Pusha T, Kendrick Lamar is someone that had been exchanging subliminals with Drake for a while now, and in 2024, this beef also came to fruition. Kendrick knew how to get under Drake's skin, knowing how fragile his ego would be from an experience he had years prior. In 2013, Kendrick featured on a song with rapper Big Sean, and rapped a verse where he essentially called out other rappers in the industry, saying that despite being friends, he still wants to kill them, as in lyrically kill them and be better than them. Hip-hop fans often view the genre as a sport and see competition as necessary to keep it entertaining, which is what Kendrick was trying to do in this verse. And everyone mentioned got the memo and didn't take it too personally. Everyone but Drake.
I don't know.
That's cause he not from this culture. This is why. The way the universe lined up, if people don't believe in a higher power now, 2026, I don't know what to tell you. When you study the Bible, what God does is people who real prideful, he would build you up just like children do. They build blocks, and what they do, they destroy it, right? So people with pride, he build them up, and then knock you right down. This is what he did.
It just wasn't real to me. It's like, I saw him after that, and it was just like love. So it's like, was that real, or was that just like for the people? You know what I mean? I personally enjoy making like great music and bodies of work over like being the talk of Twitter for like 5 days.
Confrontation is inherent in the art form?
I believe so, yeah. Confrontation just kind of comes with the territory.
This complaining wasn't a good look for Drake, and people labeled him as soft for this, and it gave glimpses of how sensitive his ego is. So fast forward over 10 years later, Drake dropped a song with J. Cole called First Person Shooter, where J. Cole raps,
"Love when they argue the hardest MC. Is it K-Dot, is it Aubrey or me? We the big three like we started a league, but right now I feel like Muhammad Ali."
Clearly the bars imply J. Cole is respectfully saying the top 3 rappers in the game are himself, Drake, and Kendrick, referring to them as the big 3. Despite rarely dropping music at this point, this seemed to wake Kendrick up, who whilst on a feature with producer Metro and rapper Feud.
But Cole, if you Muhammad Ali, who are they? See, Cole still threw a shot up in there too. He still threw a shot up in there. He think he's slick.
Shaw said,
"Motherfucker, the big 3. It's just big me."
He sends multiple explicit and subtle shots in this song throughout to both Drake and Cole in the hopes that Drake would again have an emotional outburst due to his ego getting hurt, and once again he does just that.
I got my fucking head up high, my back straight, I'm 10 toes down, and I know that no matter what, it's not a nigga on this earth that can ever fuck me in my life.
The two would then go back and forth sending diss tracks to each other, which produced a lot of dark moments for both rappers as they gradually got more personal and vicious. Drake says Kendrick is a woman beater and that his friend and manager is actually his kid's baby father, which both have no factual backing at this current time. Kendrick made fun of how Drake deals with the insecurity of not feeling black enough and needing to collaborate with black artists to feel more black. He makes fun of Drake's relationship with Adonis and claims he's not a present father and hasn't taught him any morals. He makes fun of the ghostwriting allegations and getting peed on in the club. He calls him a narcissist, a misogynist, and a psychopath. He mocks Drake's drinking, drugs, and gambling problems, his fake accent. Kendrick did lose some people when he said that Drake is hiding another daughter but provided no proof. But most importantly, the argument he repeats the most.
The proof is all over the internet. There's too much alleged proof. Allegedly. Allegedly.
That everyone is so focused on. He calls Drake a predator. Multiple times over their exchange of tracks, Kendrick alludes to the fact that Drake likes young girls and advises others to keep their young female relatives away from him. Now imagine being Drake and hearing all of these accusations towards you, with most of them being accurate as has been documented in this video, and having nothing to really say about Kendrick. Of course Kendrick Lamar isn't perfect, but he's significantly less controversial than Drake and seems to have more of a moral code. So what does Drake do? He becomes a serial liar and a really unconvincing denier.
Only with Whitney's, not Millie Bobby Brown's. I'd never look twice at no teenager.
I brought up this point earlier, but this was using Millie's name unprovoked. Kendrick never said her name. Kendrick just said Drake likes little girls. Drake brought up Millie Bobby Brown, who, as I mentioned, was 20 at the time of this song dropping.
He did the same thing when he said, I knew you was gonna take that Epstein angle or something like that, but Kendrick didn't say it. He said something else. He be telling on himself.
Whitney is Kendrick's wife. Drake has literally, factually, evidently spent more physical time with Millie Bobby Brown as a teenager than he ever has with Whitney. So this line makes zero sense and doesn't help his case. Following this line, he says he's never looked twice at a teenager. Bella Harris was a teenager he seemed to meet more than twice. So unless he didn't look at her when he saw her, then this is also a lie. He says,
this Epstein angle was the shit I expected.
Why was it expected, Drake?
If I was young girls, I promise I'd have been arrested.
First of all, it's a very narcissistic comment saying he's too famous for anything. But secondly, it's a very dumb one. A lot of worldwide famous people only got exposed years, sometimes even decades after they committed heinous crimes. Yes, fame puts a lot of eyes on you, but it also gives you a lot of money to pay for crisis management teams, lawyers, and PR people to hide things. He also claimed to plant a mole in Kendrick's camp, who made up the lie about Drake having a daughter. Someone as narcissistic and egotistical as Drake, in a desperate situation like this, would have filmed something or had receipts to prove what he did. Do you know how easy that would be to prove? He literally filmed a music video. He could have filmed this process of getting the mole in Kendrick's camp, but he didn't. To this day, there is no proof. Arguably the weirdest moment in this beef that made me feel uncomfortable personally and showed Drake's real dark side was his misunderstanding of Mother I Sober. Kendrick Lamar had a song on his album Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers called Mother I Sober. In the song, he talks about despite him not actually being assaulted as a kid, his mother didn't believe him as she herself had been assaulted and was imagining seeing the signs on him due to her trauma. Drake mistook this story for Kendrick actually being touched himself and claims that that's why Kendrick is so focused on the angle of Drake being weird with underage girls.
It's about to get so depressing. This is trauma from your own confessions. This when your father leave you home alone with no protection, so neglected. That's why these pedophile raps and shit you so obsessed with.
First of all, why does someone have to have been...
He tried to sell it so much like, I just made the connection. No, you are not mysterious. You are not deep.
Assaulted to call out a grown man's weird behavior with minors. Secondly, it shows that when limited with ammo to diss someone in a rap battle, Drake was willing to go to the deep depths of bringing up a child being touched inappropriately as a comeback. Even if it was true, that wouldn't be a bar most people would think is good. It's disgusting. Objectively, in terms of Billboard charts and public opinion, Kendrick Lamar destroyed Drake in this beef, and Drake's ego was sent crumbling down. Drake will probably have a poker face and act as if everything's alright, continue to send out subliminal disses here and there, and because he's essentially a pop star more than a rapper, he'll find his way back into the charts and live out the rest of his life as one of the biggest, if not the biggest selling artists of all time. In the 2017 song Do Not Disturb, Drake admits if he ever lost, which he doesn't, he will probably self-destruct. Drinking lots of alcohol, gambling, and lusting for women are addictions Drake has had anyway in a seemingly desperate attempt to numb any bad feelings. So the extent of these addictions may rise in private as he self-destructs after the loss to Kendrick, but we may never know. I think the only sad part about Drake's story, if you can call it that, is that despite being a mega rich person and a mega selling artist, he's never actually been accepted by his real peers. In his 2015 song You and the Six, he would state, "I used to get teased for being black, and now I'm here and I'm not black enough." His white classmates were hostile towards him when he was younger due to him being one of the only biracial kids, and when he left that environment and wanted to embrace or be a part of black culture, he struggled to find acceptance. Lil Wayne's signing of him probably gave him the confidence that he would be a part of it, but others didn't. Because Drake was raised by a white mother and was away from his black side of the family, black people basically feel Drake has no actual idea about black culture and gets his knowledge and understanding of it through media like music and TV shows. And black rappers mainly use Drake to boost their own clout due to his megastar numbers. In secret, they didn't actually like him. This isn't just a guess, but it's proven by the fact that when Kendrick was beefing with Drake, everyone turned on him, including The Weeknd, who we discussed had a history with Drake and was now saying he's glad he never signed his life away to OVO. A$AP Rocky, who Drake helped get into the scene, now despises him and taunts him in tracks. Future, who made a whole collab album with Drake, hasn't really dissed him directly, but has been the host of songs that Kendrick, The Weeknd and A$AP Rocky were able to explicitly diss Drake on. Rick Ross, who has had many highly streamed songs with Drake back in the day, spends his days violating Drake on his Instagram story. Even with Kendrick Lamar himself, he was heavily promoted by Drake at the start of his career, and they had a few collaborative tracks. Aside from rappers, Drake's relationships with women never seem to last very long either, and his exes rarely want to be associated with him after they break up, which all might be a testament to Drake's real character behind the scenes.
That come from growing up being around his mother, bro. That's what that is, man. Being around his mother, watching her, going back and forth with her. Go make me a sandwich. You know how they be.
I think even if you like Drake's music, you have to learn to separate the art from the artist. Drake does have good songs, but overall, Aubrey Graham doesn't seem to be a good person and definitely has a dark side that we still don't know the full extent of.
Wow. You keep messing with UMG the way that he do, it's gonna be coming out. But I believe we just have to wait till UMG recoup their money from Drake off of this Icicle Man stuff. Just like he stated in the video that when artists or actors, they've been doing something this whole time, the money be backing them up until they get up in age, and that's when everything come falling down. But I think when Drake get a little bit more age on him, and he ain't able to, they see that they not able to get no money off him no more, that's when everything gonna start coming out. That's when we gonna start getting the little documentaries and stuff, just like we did with Diddy and all of that, because it's way too much stuff out there for him, man. But that's the end of the video. Y'all make sure y'all like. I'm gonna leave a link in the description for Jay Wisdom's channel. Dope channel. Y'all gotta check it out, you know what I mean? Make sure you subscribe as well. Big Kish signing out. I'm going, y'all.